Okay, and what I want to go over now is metaphysics. And there's something dealing with the medical field known as medical intelligence. Now, often people have heard, anytime you're talking about the intelligence field, people have heard of military intelligence and whatever you can find at the library next to it. And but very rarely have people heard of medical intelligence. And there's people out there who are very gifted, talented intellectuals who can look at people and tell you if there's anything medically wrong with them. Now, there's easy cues to pick this up. Like I can take my finger, hold it down. How fast did the blood come back? How fast did the blood come back to my finger? A professional doctor can do the same thing, right? But there's people out there who can perceive an individual from a distance. They get paid well to do it. They look at world leaders, different politicians, even actors, musicians in different countries. Their job is to assess the health of the individual. Now, if you look into this field and you study it thoroughly, it can give you a great handle on psychology. It can give you even better handle on metaphysics, parapsychology. And I have some notes over here dealing with vision equals neural messages. What I am looking at is going to be interpreted to my neurons. This deals with neuroplasticity, which is a very brilliant subject. There's a lot of Harvard psychologists, Oxford psychologists, Princeton, Cornell, Radcliffe, who are very brilliant on this topic. But parapsychology is one of the most gifted fields on this. Now, me myself, I've learned to adapt to perception over the years to look at an individual and extract energy from them, whether it be a photograph or seeing the individual in physical reality. Now, environmental psychology is a short study of that, where you look at the environment. What am I seeing? A car. What am I seeing? A dog. What am I seeing? A school bus. Okay. But can you get anything more out of that? Can you get anything more out of that? So, now this is the Jameel Rawls show. Now, dealing with parapsychology, and environmental psychology mixed with medical intelligence, you can come up with some really cool stuff. Now, on my website, I talk about holistic intelligence, quantum intelligence, and a whole different emotional intelligence, mental intelligence, spiritual intelligence. And I talk about how mental intelligence limits an individual. Going through school traditionally, people are taught to study only mental intelligence. Children who have a natural gift, sometimes they're put in special schools to experiment in different sorts of ways, but most people only learn through mental intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence, if you're empathic, how can I extract information using emotional intelligence? What am I feeling? Through my feelings, I can learn. You have the left brain and the right brain, right? Most people like myself who are more artistic, more right brain thinkers, but I use the left brain a lot, about equal now. You have audio learning, kinesthetic learning, touching, you have visual learning, and then if you combine emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, you can learn to abstract the energy by looking at a person or object. I do it all the time. But I spent years going to psychics, mediums, different sorts of people, educators, and addressing my need to learn this. So what I want to get across. Frequency. Okay, a lot of times in the New Age movement, people talk about frequency. Certain colors talk about frequency. Certain people carry a certain frequency. If there's somebody I don't like and I don't get along with them, if I look at them, I'm going to extract a negative frequency out of them. I'm going to get a frequency out of the individual. Oh my God, I had so many bad experiences with this person. Jesus, why don't they leave me the fuck alone? You know what I mean? I don't want to go to work today. I don't want my boss, that son of a God, I can't stand looking at. See, you're extracting a frequency from what these people mean to you in your life. You say, man, that girl, God, she's beautiful. Oh my God, man, every time I see her, I can't even say anything about her. See what I'm saying? Frequency, energy. And people who are sexually attracted to each other put off a lot of sexual energy. And that's, you learn to use different energies and different sorts of behaviors. There's been some brilliant minds coming out of America too. Like you got Tesla, and Tesla learned to use energy in different sorts of ways, psychoenergetic energy, in different sorts of ways. There's been some extraordinary people. You just don't hear about this in school. I mean, the school books don't, they just don't go into it. You got to be an independent researcher, I guess, to get the information you want. Where am I going with this? I just want to add a little bit more. Where's my notes? Where am I going with this? Okay, so that's about it. I just wanted to add a little note about abstracting energy and getting energy out of things. And channeling is really cool. Channeling is something I'm proud of. You have spirits, individuals. Now you have different people with different religious beliefs. Somebody coming from the three Semitic religions, Islam, Judaism, or Christianity. Oftentimes, they'll believe in extra deities other than God. Christianity is supposed to be like a monotheistic religion, but oftentimes it can be interpreted as being, what do you call it, eclectic, where you say, hey, there's angels, there's Archangel Michael. People say, was Archangel Michael really Jesus before the New Testament? You have like the book of Job, Satan was with the angels and all that stuff. Getting into the New Age, you have an interpretation of extraterrestrials or different spiritual types of beings. And a lot of people like to connect with these beings for information. It's the same thing as like, angels, demons. Now you have Pleiadians and Lyrans and what, who knows? Who knows? The universe is a big place. Who knows what's going on? But through meditation, people connect with their spirit guides. And there's some really gifted psychics and channelers out there who pulled through some extraordinary information. Me, myself, through my study of, African history, like the actual natives in Africa, I learned ancestral prayer. And I'm mixed. I'm black, white, whatever. But through watching these natives do ancestral prayer, I was able to realize, in America, our people that are coming from the West, we don't really think about our ancestors that much. Well, what if I can get information from my ancestors? So that's one of the things I've worked on is, my ancestors are in the spirit realm. Like you say, you have heaven and all this different stuff. The Catholics have purgatory and whatnot. Can I get information from spiritual information? Can I get it downloaded into me? And so sometimes I've worked on it through prayer and meditation, and sometimes I'll just be sitting there and I'll just get information. And I won't even ask for it. I'll just be sitting there, and all of a sudden a bunch of knowledge will come in. And I thought that was really cool, that if you act like in the Bible it says, if you ask, you shall get. I thought that was really cool. So, where am I going? This is going to be a short video. The last video, the Jameel Rawls show, we covered psychology versus parapsychology. And right now I'm just going through some overnotes. Oh. I don't even know if I want to come on YouTube with this kind of stuff. Anti-gravitational effects and whatnot, and radionics. I don't even know. I don't even think I'm going to go on YouTube with that. Teleforce energy. I don't think I'm going to go on YouTube with that. Hebrew Morse code. What the hell was I researching? I get into all this research and I forget where I'm at. I spend months researching a subject, and then I'll move to another subject, and I'll forget that I did the subject, but then sometimes I'll just spontaneously remember all the information. And the brain works in pictographs. The brain works in images. Through your life, you see things and you envision things, and it works through pictographs. So I might see something that reminds me of my research, or think something, and it's just a chain of events. And this gets into the different speeds of intelligence. Parallel processing. We're talking about parapsychology, clairvoyance, the different speeds of intelligence. Covert behaviors, covert brain state. Oh. Okay. I'll just wait till next time. Just want to add a little side note to that. Still. All right, but I encourage people to get in again. Your vision is what your brain's going to. The neural functions of your brain is what you're going to be interpreting. So through what you see, makes up your brain chemistry. Okay. And that's an important note I want to make for people. Now, where are my references? What do I want to get? Oh yeah, I want to tell people about this book. The Heart's Gold by Paul P. Purcell. Put the Heart's Gold by Paul. This is a great book. This is a great book. And I want to encourage some of the people who are subscribed to me to get a dictionary online. You can use this dictionary free. The Webster's Dictionary from 1828. 1828. This is more spiritually orientated. The older you go back with dictionaries, the more spiritually orientated they are. So we talk about spiritual intelligence, but the dictionaries now aren't really made out too much for spiritual intelligence. There was a time when people had prayer in school, and prayer was taken out of school at some point in the past. And there's so many definitions. And they're orientated, they use verses from the Bible and whatnot. Like, schools 100 years ago would interpret information. They would give references based on Bible quotations. They don't do that anymore. You don't hear anything about God in the dictionaries anymore. 1828. Science. In a general sense, knowledge or certain knowledge, the comprehension or understanding of truth or facts by the mind, the science of God must be perfect. See, in philosophy, a collection of the general principles or leading truths relating to any subject, pure science as the mathematics is built on self-evident truths, but the term science is also applied to other subjects founded on generally acknowledged truths, as metaphysics. See, now this is an 1828 dictionary, and they're talking about metaphysics. Or on experiment and observation as chemistry. I love how they spell CHIM, chemistry, and natural philosophy, or even to an assemblage of the general principles of an art. As the science of agriculture, the science of navigation, arts relate to practice as painting and sculpture. A principle in science is a rule in art. Art derived from precepts or built on principles. Science perfects genius. Any art or species of knowledge. Just listen to that language. Isn't that wonderful? Just the way it sounds. No science doth make known the first principles on which it buildeth. One of the 7 liberal branches of knowledge, viz. Grammar, logic, rhetoric, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music. There's a note here. Authors have not always been careful to use the terms art and science with due discrimination and precision. Music is an art as well as a science in general. So in 1828, music was viewed as a science, but you don't really, what happened to all the music programs in the schools? And that, music in general, science in general, and art is that which depends on practice or performance, in science that which depends upon abstract or speculative principles. The theory of music is a science. The practice of is an art. Now that's what I want the people who interpret the people who become under my sound and interpret the information. Don't go to a dictionary from today's world with my definitions. I would like my definitions to be interpreted through 1828 Webster's Dictionary, beautifully written. You have the 1913 Webster's Dictionary as well. They don't teach Latin in schools anymore, so we're at the general listener, we're at a disadvantage if we want to get Latin interpreted. Science. Now, this is the 1913 Webster's Dictionary. This is the kind of when it comes to the Jameel Rawls show, go back to these dictionaries for better conceptualization. Knowledge of principles and causes, ascertain truth or facts. If we conceive God's insight, if we can conceive God's sight or science before the creation to be extended to all and every part of the world, seeing everything as it is, his science or sight from eternity lays no necessity on anything to come to pass. Yeah. Shakespeare's deep and accurate science in mental philosophy. Coleridge. And it just goes on and on and on. The 1913 one actually goes a lot further. But I love the 1828 one. Then you can get dictionaries from other countries and learn how different people interpret different subjects. And it's sort of a metaphysical cooperation where you get this definition, you get that definition, you have a spiritual interpretation, and you combine them, and through your perception, it's like a metaphysical process. Learning is a metaphysical process, not just how they presented it. And you got this is Webster's International Dictionary, 1890 to 1900. I gotta get that. I gotta get that. Funk and Wagnall New Standard Dictionary of the English Language. See, that's the thing. When you're talking about the English language, which The English language is the international language. When you go if you get on a plane and you go traveling to Japan or Russia or France or any country in Africa, English is the international language. So, if I was if I was going through high school again, which I didn't like high school. I just didn't go. I'm not encouraging people to drop out of high school, but it just wasn't for me. I would encourage people before learning Spanish to learn English. Uh, when it comes to the English language, there's no exact interpretation or definitions. If you go back to the 1800s and 1700s, words were spelled a lot differently. So dictionaries, I love to order my dictionaries from the older colleges. Like again, like if you can catch a college, or not, I mean, I'm sorry, older dictionaries, but Princeton or Yale for the older textbooks, which they're hard to come by. I used to have hundreds of books. I lost a lot of them, unfortunately, in a move. And learning makes you wealthy. Monetary gain is wonderful. If you work for a living and you make a salary and you want to get a house or a car, all the power to you. But having a wealth of knowledge is going to mean more. Knowing something can get you far ahead in the world. People say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Sometimes it's what you know. And then again, you have to, some subjects, there's just no place for them in the ancient world, like synthetic biology is a subject that I'm increasingly becoming fond of, have been for a few years, and so newer books are, if I want to get a book about synthetic biology, it's going to have to be modern. And then there's words that weren't even around 50 or 100. Like there's words that are not around today that were around. Then there's words like the word fax, F-A-X, which I think is a verb. Fax is a verb because it's an action, right? You're faxing something. But the word fax didn't come around to the 1980s. So if we're studying, if you want to know about fax, the word fax and with faxing, you got to start from the 80s and up. If you go back to the 70s, there's not going to be anything out there on fax. And you can educate yourself. Like me myself, I just basically just studied for years on everything I could, and I can't believe how many people I know I went to high school with. They paid like $100,000 for their education, and half the time they were drunk with their frat brothers. And I always laugh about this because I'll be like, you paid $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for your education, and you were outside drunk washing your frat brother's car at 3 in the morning. And I'm not making fun of anybody going to college. That's a beautiful thing if you can go to a university. But I'd say I wouldn't pay $100,000 to be drunk washing my frat brother's car at 3 in the morning. I'd be inside studying. So one of the things about learning and studying is not so much what you know. Do you know how to access the information? There's a lot of people out there who they say, I don't know this information. Well, it's okay if you don't know, but do you know how to access the information? That's the part. Learning how to access information. How do I access information on this subject? How do I discover a new subject, which is fascinating. Learning how to access information is just as important as knowing information. And you can learn something from everybody. You can learn something from a third grader if you really want to. Children speak more truth than adults. And then synthetic biology, future environmental applications. See, this gets into, like, one of my favorite research is quantum physics, but this gets into DNA, consciousness expansion, and how to deal with your environment. The whole universe is made up of light, and even modern scientists are speaking of this right now. So changing your frequency, your energy, you changed the visualization. And then the cool thing about synthetic biology, it deals with disease. You learn about disease and how disease is treated. I was doing some research a couple months ago how about in Africa, the Russian government was curing all sorts of harsh diseases. Think synthetic biology. Uh, these researchers, because I'll be sitting there, I just don't get it, because I'll be looking at, I know guys who were in jail for 20 years, and they'll come out of jail, man, and they'll know everything, and then there'll be guys who professors at the college who've been a professor for 20 years, and they'll be really extremely brilliant, but they might not be able to catch up with the guy who was in jail for 20 years. I've seen a couple of people. I got to know a guy. He was in jail for 20 years. This guy got out of jail, man. He was like an encyclopedia. Like he was running around. He was running around like you know, like the Matrix or something, man. He was running. He was like a lawnmower man. He went in a drug addict and came out the lawnmower man. This guy was up there talking about, deep space communication and all. Oh. And so this stuff. I like talking to students of colleges, especially I like to see the women are really smart when you get into subjects like synthetic biology and you look at they have a debate. They'll have a debate and you sit there and you listen to them. They have a debate and you sit there and you listen to them. And sometimes I'll be listening to them. I'm like, you know what? I know more on them on that topic. And I'm like, but they got a degree and I don't. That's the only thing about it. Like they'll be sitting talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning and all this stuff. And our artificial intelligence works with machine learning and we're everything we're doing in today's world. And I'm like, I'm privy to the subject, but I just don't have a degree. Okay, and that's it. That's the Jameel Rawls Show. This is just a follow-up video from my last video to give people a better interpretation of my research on talking about neural processing and psychology versus parapsychology. Okay, thank you for watching.